Hi everyone, I'm Alex.
And I'm Ben.
And we are Married with Dragons.
We are on after a slight technical hiccup
Yes.
at the beginning of the attempted stream.
Twitch thought it would be a great idea, of course it happens to us, to reset all Twitch keys right before we start.
It was funny, like you were trying to figure out what was going on, and I looked at my email. I'm like, hey, cool! 10 minutes ago, Twitch sent me an email saying that they reset all of their keys.
So everyone was like, great.
But we're on. We're here.
Yes.
And we are ready to chat about all things D&D.
Yes. So we'll kick off with a little story. So we were playing our game.
Our game of Dungeons & Dragons.
Yes.
This was a while ago.
Yeah, this was a while ago. And our party of characters were in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a jungle, and we came across just this mini random dungeon.
It was kind of like the group's first mini dungeon that you'd come across, actually, and sort of like a little, it was only a very short one, but it was like a little taste tester for big dungeons to come.
It was would you even call it a dungeon or more like a temple?
Yeah, it's more of a temple, I guess, with some traps and stuff, and there was a cool magical item at the end of it. So, admittedly, it was one of the more ridiculous ones that I've run.
So, obviously, what comes with a temple or a dungeon is obviously little puzzles we've got to figure out. And
had a riddle that you were looking through?
Yeah, we had a riddle at the beginning that we eventually got through.
After a lot of pondering.
Yes, a lot of pondering. And then we had to go through a kind of like a corridor or a room where you had to get from one side to the other, essentially.
It was kind of like those spy movies, those real cliche spy movies, where to get to the vault, they've got to get through this corridor, but then when they step into the corridor, there's a million traps that spring in and go off in different directions. So it was kind of a little bit like that.
Yeah, so it was like that, and eventually after a little bit of trial and error we figured out, I think with the clues as well, that we had to go by twos. So for example, I think I'm pretty sure it was by twos.
It was by two. I mean, so you originally figured out that the puzzle was eluding you to get on each other's shoulders and have someone sort of go in pairs and carry you guys across, basically as one giant humanoid.
So we had
there was 6 in the party?
There was
6 in the party.
It was an even party, so that worked out well. And we had pretty much 3 strong characters that could carry and 3 not so strong. So obviously, not thinking this, I think there was 2 of us, myself and one other, that were thinking real far ahead. And we were 2 strong characters that probably could have shared the load, but we're we'll just carry each other.
I think it was the barbarian and the...
And the rogue.
No, not the rogue. It was barbarian and the cleric, I think. You guys were
not the cleric. The cleric had the...
whoever,
the halfling or whatever it was. Anyway, so eventually it evened out to 2 weak characters having to figure out how to carry themselves, and these were a warlock and a wizard.
And it was literally this spark moment, at the end, everyone else had gotten to the end of this dangerous corridor and have got past the traps, and there was this moment of realization where I think everyone in the party just sort of stopped for a minute. It's
we did not
so
think this through.
the 2 scrawny fellas who have no strength whatsoever, how the hell are they going to get across?
Yeah, and we're just oh no, one of us is going to have to go back, but it just and then the wizard and the warlock had a brilliant idea that made me laugh.
They had a moment.
Much.
They had a moment.
Yeah, so instead of carrying on their shoulders, what they decided to do was cuddle their way across the puzzle, and just imagining it was just so funny.
And I can just remember being the DM at that point, it was relatively early-ish in this campaign, not super early, relatively early-ish, and I can just remember describing the scene that you guys had put together, and getting descriptive with what was playing out, and thinking to myself, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
It was such a weird, random solution,
but it worked. And I think that was the funniest part, was that they were all right, we're going to cuddle our way across.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment. It was a beautiful moment, and you guys ended up getting out of there alive, thankfully. I was a bit worried for a little while that you guys just weren't going to make any progress.
But I just thought that was probably one of those hilarious things I've seen in a campaign.
Certainly not something I anticipated.
It was so clever, but so funny.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, it just reminds you and shows you as well that you never know what's going to happen in D&D, and that's just why it's so brilliant. Like, never in a million years would have I anticipated that happening, but it was great. It led to a funny story.
Yeah, exactly.
But tonight, we are going to be chatting about all things Cleric.
Yes.
Which I'm pretty keen on.
I was going to say, have you played it? Have you played a Cleric before?
Have I? No, I'd actually no. I've made a couple Cleric characters actually, but no, I have not actually played a Cleric in a game before.
Yeah.
My next character that I'm planning on playing is actually going to be a Cleric.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very much excited about that. They are certainly a very, very useful and versatile class.
Oh yeah. Well, I've never played a Cleric, but I think every campaign I've played with a Cleric except one.
Yeah, we didn't have one for Strahd.
We didn't have one for Strahd, but we had one for Tomb, and we have one for obviously
the one
Tyranny.
at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're I suppose the main sort of thing people think of when they think Cleric is they think healer.
Yes.
They think like, heal bot. They're just going to heal all the time, and that's their role. It's sort of like if people have played, World of Warcraft and stuff before, they'll immediately pick the Cleric to be that healer role, which they can be.
They can, but there's more to a Cleric than just healing. Like,
yes.
There's more of a warrior kind of
a
warrior side of the Cleric.
I think that's one of my favourite things about the Cleric is it's one of those classes, and a few classes do this really well, but it's one of those classes where there's such versatility in the way you can play it.
Yeah.
You could play 8-10 different Clerics and it'd be almost an entirely new experience every time.
Yeah.
But a bit of basic stuff about Clerics before we go too far. So they are a spellcaster class, so they do cast spells. However, a little bit different to your normal sort of wizardy type spellcaster classes, they are also quite beefy. They can wear light and medium armor depending on your domain. You can also potentially wear heavy armor. They can, be quite skilled with melee weapons and stuff as well. So they're kind of similar to the Paladin in the sense that the Paladin is basically a warrior that can cast spells as well, but the Cleric has far more spellcasting capability than a Paladin does.
Yeah, and with the Cleric as well, when forging your character, you have to now. Never pronounce this. I've pronounced it before, but I got it wrong. You have to follow a deity.
A deity.
There we go.
Yes. So generally, the concept behind Clerics is that they get their magical powers and their abilities through faith to a particular deity. Entirely up to the player. There's a whole range, and some of them are recommended or suggestions in the books themselves. But as a DM, and obviously you can ask your DM as well, but personally, me as a DM, I'd have no issue with someone who wanted to play a Cleric completely making up their own deity, perhaps.
That'd be really interesting.
Yeah. So you can, there's always a higher power, basically, that you get your abilities from as a Cleric, though. A couple more basic stuff as well. So Clerics use Wisdom as their spellcasting ability modifier, opposed to Intelligence or Charisma, but being the other ones. Charisma is quite a common one. Wizards use Intelligence, but Clerics use Wisdom. Which is a little bit different as well, and I think that ties in kind of quite nicely with the whole religious.
I think it does too, especially with, like you said, with the religious. Clerics. Every Cleric I've played with, there's not their play style, but whenever they describe their characters or some of the attributes or the skills that they have, seems very quite kind of faithful in a way. Yeah.
And look, don't get me wrong, you certainly can have Clerics that might not be goody two shoes. They might be worshipping an evil deity.
All deities can't be good.
No, there's lots of different ones. So, generally there's always that component of them that's how they get their powers, and they might have varying connections with their deity. Maybe it's really strong. Maybe they don't really know the deity at all, and they just have happened to come across it, and this deity has smiled upon them and bestowed these abilities upon the character. So there's a few different ways you can run it, but certainly a very interesting class, particularly as any class that you can wield as many spells as the Cleric can, but also take a hit. There's a lot of versatility there.
Yeah, definitely, and some of their, I was about to say, I kind of get their skills sometimes mixed up with their spells.
Yes, their features.
Their features
and their spells.
Their features and their spells. But some of the spells that the cleric has just from playing with clerics, some of their spells are really cool.
Oh yeah, they've got some fantastic, and I think they've got just about as many spells as spell slots available to them as a wizard. Like their spellcasting capability is really high up there as far as spellcasters go, which is really fantastic. Yeah. You certainly don't have to be one of those people that get up in melee and fight in the combat. You can sort of take a step back, but at the same time, if you wanted to, you could get up in the middle of everything and still be okay. Which like I said, it gives you options when playing a campaign. There's lots of different ways and different different approaches you can take to the situations with your particular character.
And with clerics, I think with most classes apart from, I think we talked about this earlier, apart from the bard, I don't know if there's any others, but they have to prepare their spells. Yeah,
so clerics do prepare their spells. They can change them sort of every time they finish a long rest. They can change the prepared spells. Clerics do prepare their spells from the spell list that they have. The good thing or interesting thing about clerics compared to some other classes is clerics can prepare spells, any of their spells that are on their spell list. So someone like a wizard, for example, chooses a spell, when they level up and whatnot, they create a spell that they can choose from, and then they have prepared spells amongst that. Whereas a cleric prepares their spells from their entire spell list of spell slots that they've got available. Obviously, you can't pick a 9th level spell at level 3, but
what they have available.
But it's a little bit different.
So you can chop and change.
You can really, really gives you, you can test it out. If you don't like something, you can change it to something else. Which is really, really exciting.
That is really cool.
The other major part of the clerics as well is the big choice that you make as a cleric is your domain, which is a really big one as well. Your domain basically it sort of speaks a little bit to the sort of deity that you're going to be following, because your domain will speak about whether it's righteous and good or maybe a bit more chaotic or whatnot. But it also speaks to the abilities and the spells that you're going to be able to get as well. So for example, there's a life domain. Perfect for healers, really focuses on the life energy of people. And
isn't there like a undead kind of style?
There's a grave cleric. There's
cleric.
I'm looking at forge domain, which is like a mechanical type religion and faith. There's lots of different ones. So this is what I mean when we say that you don't just have to be a healer. You can. Clerics are fantastic healers, but don't pigeonhole yourself. You can certainly do other things very, very well.
I feel like clerics kind of have a lot of flavour to them, so a lot of options and a lot of styles that you can go with.
Absolutely. It really allows you to get creative, and that's what I love most about the classes I like the most are the ones that you can get really creative with and you can play in very different ways.
And mentioned in the chat a peace domain. Have you heard of that one?
Yes, there are a lot of domains. I have heard of I'm not familiar entirely with every domain. I think when you include all the homebrew domains as well that are out there, obviously if you are making one, make sure that you talk to your DM about that. But there's a lot of different. I know that there's some broken or really strong builds for the grave cleric. There's a lot of really different ways you can play the character, which is really, really cool.
So is there is there any big differences, do you reckon, between the cleric and the paladin, apart from the spiritual kind of?
For sure. So the biggest thing definitely is the spell difference. So the clerics far and away have a much, much larger range of spells and spell casting ability. They've got more spell slots, access to more spells. Very, very different in that regard. So I guess with the paladin, as far as the flavor of the characters go, the paladin obviously follows an ideal, I guess, a bit more than an actual. Obviously, paladins can follow gods and whatnot as well. But they can follow oaths that they make, not necessarily linked to a deity. Whereas a cleric is much more directly linked to some sort of deity in one way or the other, and that's how they're basically bestowed their strength and their abilities.
Okay.
And I would recommend this sort of class for people who maybe are wanting to give spellcasting a go.
It kind of sounds like the best of both worlds. Having a a tanky melee kind of character, but also wanting to experience that spellcaster side, but not having any other really like weaknesses to it, like strength weaknesses. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like if you've played a lot of tanky or melee or fighter based characters before, but you wanted to try spellcasting, Cleric might be the perfect choice because you don't have to get rid of that beefiness that you're really wanting. You can play it, or say if you maybe having enough of spellcasting for a little bit, you can just use the character as sort of like a obviously you're going to be losing out on a lot of its abilities, but you can use the character as like a get in there melee sort of character as well. So it sort of gives you a bit of the best of both worlds sort of flavour to it as well.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, and I think that if you hadn't have picked Bard, I might have actually suggested Cleric for your next character.
I think
because I know you loved the Barbarian.
Oh yeah, I do. I think I really would like to actually play a Cleric at some stage, but I think what I'd love to play as with a Cleric is go into full healer mode. Like I would really like to, because so far I've really liked being quite at the front line of combat and anything like that, but I think it'd be nice to like really try and focus on being full support.
Yeah,
I reckon that'd be really cool to play.
And they're so valued.
Yeah.
If people ever do play full support type characters, that you don't realize how amazing they are until all of a sudden you get into a situation without them. Yeah. Like say you've got this support healer Cleric with you for the whole time, and then all of a sudden they're gone and you get into a combat and you're like, holy crap, this is a lot different all of a sudden. Like it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah. I just reckon it would be cool to play.
Yeah.
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 It's something that I definitely want to do. And yeah, so far, I mean, like, obviously I haven't played like many campaigns, but the ones I've been in, I feel like it's only been two. The two Clerics that have been played have been so different to each other. So yeah, one was aiming to be quite a healing Cleric, and the other one is just more
all-rounder.
All-rounder, and but like even with the styles, like the first one was very faithful to the deity, the god, always referencing the god in pretty much everything they do, while the other one is kind of like still has a deity, but like
not as prominent,
and also I find it to be more like kind of like grave in a way, like real like witchy and
there's a lot of necromancy powers built into them, which is really cool. And eventually when I get to play the Cleric that I've built, it will be very different again. Entirely different, sort of.
I feel like
steering away actually from a lot of that sort of spell casting and thinking more like defensive capabilities. And
I feel like with Clerics, whenever you come across one, you don't really know what you're going to get. It's just probably one of the most, like, as a player, and still being like quite new to the D&D world.
I wouldn't say you're new anymore.
I feel like
I would say you've got a lot of experience now, actually.
I think I see it like as I haven't played a lot of campaigns, but then I have to realise those campaigns go for a really long time.
Yeah, they do. You finished a couple, which is impressive. A lot of the time in Dungeons and Dragons, you're not always lucky enough to be able to finish the campaigns.
Yeah. So I think I lost my train of thought.
The Clerics have been different, basically, is what you're saying.
Clerics have been different. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that until we got sidetracked.
You're sidetracked so easily.
Yeah, well, I feel like... Yeah, I feel like... I've lost it. I've lost what I was going to say. It was something about them being different, but I was going to add a bit more to it.
But yeah, I would certainly recommend... I think a lot of the time... Clerics get looked over a lot because they are seen as that very pigeonhole type class. Someone's actually just mentioned as well, Twilight Cleric.
That's what I was trying to think
That's
of.
That's the Cleric
that
is in the
campaign currently. I was like, I remember seeing Twilight written down, but I was like, I couldn't remember the words. I was like, she's not a necromancer, but she was something.
She's got
witchy.
Some abilities that sort of make it seem a little bit more witchy.
Yeah, she had like a witchy vibe, and I was just like, what are you?
Very different flavour.
Yeah, but it's a cool flavour.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I definitely don't look over Cleric. A lot of people skim it a little bit, or if they don't have much experience with it, think, oh no, it's not really for me. Like the whole, religious healer sort of pigeonhole. Like,
doesn't have to be.
No, not at all. They can be badass. They can be the damage dealers of the group.
Yeah,
you've got war clerics that can deal a lot of and buff people a lot in combat as well. There's some really badass builds out there.
Yeah, definitely. I think Clerics is just something that just seems like a very flavorsome kind of character. Like they have a lot of flavor with them, and just
well, I'm keen to see you play a healer cleric now. Actually, I think that'd be a very different role for you.
It would be, because I kind of like with my D&D characters, I kind of want to try something new each time. I think the only character that I'm kind of hesitant of playing, or probably will leave to last, is probably a wizard.
Yeah.
Just because the spells seem cool, but I'm really not like excited with the whole. I like having a bit of strength to me, and I think that's.
You're a bard at the moment. What strength do you?
I'm quite a beefy bard.
Are you?
Yeah,
you're talking about constitution.
No, my
health. That's constitution.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not strength. I was going to say you're not strong.
Yeah, no, I'm not strong, but I've got quite high health for an. I think my health is above average.
Yeah, you've done pretty well. Look, I mean, there's nothing wrong playing as a wizard. There's nothing wrong with wizards having low health. You've got to balance them out. They can do so many amazing, crazy spells and deal such high damage output. It wouldn't make any sense for them to have. So there's things to take into consideration as well.
And as mentioned, support doesn't always mean healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, bless. And Bane, I haven't come across Bane before.
I must say,
bless. I have.
Yes, speaking of like that sort of support, the cleric in our campaign that I'm running at the moment has saved some bacon the last couple of consecutive sessions. There was a fight against the dragon that you guys came across that one of her domain features that gave a little bit of extra health at the start of the fight is the only reason that our wizard didn't insta-die.
Yeah.
So super, super helpful buff. And then the most recent session... she managed to heal. So there was 4 out of 5 people were down. Majority of the party was down.
Yeah.
She managed to bring someone up, like onto 1 HP with an aura, who then killed the boss.
Yeah.
Like that's some pretty clutch support coming in there.
So pretty much Bane is kind of like opposite of Bless.
Yeah.
So Bane makes enemies roll 1d4 and subtract it from any saving throws or attack rolls. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah. So you very much impact the ebb and flow of battle a lot.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that I could like. I feel like clerics can bring so much strategy to combat too. Just being able to do the spell casting, the support, the feats, all of that, just to be able to really
and still be able to take a hit, still be able to deal a hit.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like. I think that's why that's why I probably will leave wizard to last, because I don't like
not being able to take a hit.
I like my bard can't. My bard's doing well.
You like to, even with the bard sometimes, you like to run into the middle of danger.
I do. I can't help it. I'm very much like that. I think that's my play style. I really
You suit tank roles.
Yeah,
you do.
I really like getting in there and being like
amongst it.
Yeah, I like it. I love, because my favorite character ever was the barbarian, and the bard is. How many have I played? No, I've played a fighter before too. Fighter, not so much, but bard. No, sorry. Barbarian and the Bard are probably like my top.
The BBs?
Yeah, the BBs. They're really good. So I think I'll enjoy Cleric.
I'm super excited for Cleric. I can't wait for this new campaign to start.
So you're the Forge, did you say?
Forge domain.
Forge domain. So a lot of it... What's the difference between that and or is it the same one? The one that was in the tomb...
No, that's a very different one. That was a life domain Cleric.
No. The Tinkerer.
Well, you're talking about Artificer.
Artificer.
Yeah. So they sort of are similar-ish. Artificer uses intelligence and technology, I guess, as their magical source. Yeah. Forge Domain is still a deity that I'll be getting my power from. Yeah. As you sort of said, like there's still that channel of power coming from that deity. However, the faith is very much around the building of a better world and that sort of stuff. And it's not like mechanical in the sense that I'm necessarily building things for my power. It's that's the sort of like workers' domain, like workers' faith that I'll be following basically. Yeah. But that basically sums up a bit of a basic summary of Cleric, and I'm more excited than ever to play a cleric. And I'm keen to see you play a healer-based cleric as well at some point. I think that's going to be great.
I reckon that'll be fun.
Yeah.
I've got it. It's in there somewhere. It's always hard when you start a new campaign, especially if you haven't played like a lot of the classes, like which one you want to do next.
Yeah.
So I think
build a heap of characters and then never get to play half of them.
Yeah. So I think a cleric would probably be in there. Obviously, I've got another character idea coming up, and then I've got another one banked for after that. So I'd say it's third in line.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, third
I'm keen to see them all come to play.
So we need 3 more campaigns until we see me do cleric.
Or you just die a couple times.
But that hasn't happened yet, and I want a streak of never dying.
You've come very close a few times.
Close, but
fingers crossed it doesn't happen, but
not there yet.
We'll wait and see. Well, what do you think? Is it time for the joke?
Is it a cleric-based joke?
It's not. I didn't even think to get a cleric-based joke. It's a musical-based joke.
Oh, so bad.
Yeah, bad-ish.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm not sure if I'm not too sure if you're gonna get it though.
You said this last week.
Yeah, I know, but
I didn't get it last week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is why I'm a little bit worried. No, you're gonna have like some sort of musical knowledge, but I think it's quite good. It's quite good.
Yeah.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Why do dragons make such good musicians? Because they really know their scales. In music, there's scales. There's different scales in music. And then dragons have scales. No, there's scale. I'm telling you.
Oh.
There's I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Music has scales. Dragons have... it's whoosh, straight over their head. I thought that was good. Anyone with some musical knowledge...
Scales.
Scales in music. Yes, there are scales that you play in music.
I only know notes.
There are notes in scales.
Oh.
Scales can be in different keys.
I didn't know that. So I didn't get that. I'm just like, I don't know. That could have been turned into a kitchen joke. Cooking scales.
No, I like my music. I like my music joke. Dragons make good musicians. Don't try and change my dad jokes.
Are you a dad now?
I must be.
You're warming up.
I'm definitely warming up. All right.
But yeah, thank you everyone for watching.
It's been good fun hanging out, having a bit of a chat.
Yes.
We'll be back same time, same place next week.
Yes. So, I was about to say, it kind of is the same time. It's the same time for us, but we are in
daylight
savings time. So it's probably, if you're not in daylight saving times, it would be an hour prior. So 7.
And if you're not in Australia, you might not know what we're talking about. So it's 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Daylight savings time, not standard time.
Oh, sorry, AEDT, that's
right.
Australian Eastern Daylight Time.
To make things easier, if you just click the old follow button for Game on Oz and then tune in around this time or on a Thursday, you'll get notified when we're live.
Definitely. Yeah. Keen to catch you all next time.
Alright, see you next week, guys.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I guess you must have been liking one of our content videos here, and I'm so glad that you did. But, just to show us that extra little bit of love, why not drop us a like or a comment on the video? And if you really, really like us, subscribe.